Okay, so HyperNurbs is one of the last Nurbs model tools that we're going to be using in here. It is the very first one that you click on when you select the Nurbs tool. So if you drop a HyperNurbs object in there, typically it's good to use a simple primitive object like a cube for this. You can use other objects as well, but the cube tends to be the simplest form to begin with. When you use a primitive in this setting, it's good to make it editable, all right? And oftentimes what you can do, well, let's just start with this one. I'll get into a little bit more about how to use more subdivisions. But if you make the cube editable and then drop it into the HyperNurbs, you see what happens is it turns into this spherical object. So it moves from that strict geometry of the cube and it sort of rounds off all of the corners. That's typically what the HyperNurbs does, is it takes geometry and it makes it more smooth and curvilinear. Okay? Now the cool thing about this is that in the HyperNurbs you can click it on and off, so at any time you can see how it's going to affect. So you can model in total geometric forms, and then you can always apply the HyperNurbs to see what it will look like. Okay? And typically what we can do here then is if we select the, let's say the Polygon Tool, and if you grab any of these polygons, you can grab and move, and you can see what happens. You can really stretch it out, right? So you can change the formation, and again, it's going to keep it in that sort of curvilinear sort of format. You can also extrude. So extrude, if you hit the D key, you can get the extrude tool, and you can take a side and you can drag it out to make it longer, right? Notice what happens when you first hit it. It's going to kind of make a flat side, right? It's going to add another level of polygons to it. When we look at it without the HyperNurbs, you see that it's like replicated that face, right? So you're getting more polygons and it's stretching it out along that side. So you can get some really interesting ways of working. So if you extrude, you can also extrude inside too, right? So if you extrude inner, you get an indentation, a curvilinear indentation, which is really helpful sometimes. And then lastly, the other tool that's helpful here is Extrude Inner. And Extrude Inner, if you hit the I key, what it will do is it will take that polygon that you have and will replicate it inside of itself to make a new one, all right? So if you hit that and click here, you see what happens? I'm taking that polygon and I'm making it smaller on the inside now. And then if I move this out, and then if I go back to the extrude key, I can extrude out of that. So you see it's taken that face, it's made a smaller one inside of it, and then when you extrude it out again, you get that sort of same shape happening again. If we look at this without the HyperNurbs on, you see what it looks like. It has that kind of formation, right? So you look at, you're getting more polygons when you extrude out from extruding the inner, and then you can sort of match it in that formation. So let's just do something representational really quickly here, so you can see how powerful this tool is. If you let's just grab a cube here and again make it editable really quick. You can either hit the C key or just click this button over here, drop it in. What we're going to do is grab the Polygons tool, and actually if you just take it, if you click the HyperNurbs off so we can see just those faces, I want to select all the front faces. So if you go all the way around this object, hit the Shift key, so that so the top and bottom aren't selected, but all the faces are selected. Okay, let's take that, and then I'm going to extrude those outward really quickly here. Hit the D key and extrude out. Whoops. There we go. Although I didn't want that face to be down there. There we go. Just like this. See that? So you can extrude more than one face at the same time, right? Which is pretty cool. So as I extrude this out, if I go back to the HyperNurbs now, you can see it's sort of giving me this strange formation here, right? If I extrude it out again, one more time, and then I'm going to kind of enlarge this a bit. So I hit the Scale tool, grow this a little bit more, go back to my HyperNurbs here. There you go. There's my spigot handle. You see? What's cool about the Extrude tool, check this out. with the Extrude tool on, you can select polygons. So you don't have to go back to the Move tool to do that. You can select a polygon. You can actually just move it if you grab one of the handles like this. You can pull it up, or you can extrude it by grabbing outside of it and pulling up along there, right? So here we go. We have this sort of like, you know, bathroom faucet handle generated really quickly with the hyper Nurbs, selecting multiple faces, extruding, and then you know, controlling the overall form of the polygon. Okay, lastly, let's open up a new window really quickly here. Sometimes when you're modeling and you want to use the hyper Nurbs, it's good to have more than one segment. So you know, it's helpful sometimes before you make an object editable to create more segments. The more polygons you have, the more control you have over an object. So if I make all of these segments 3, sometimes you need to hit the display and turn the shading lines on so you can see that. Now I have more polygons per side here. So you need to do this before you make it editable. Make it editable. Drop a hyper Nurbs in here, and then you can see it's. Notice how here it's not, because there's more polygons. It's not a circle anymore. It's not a sphere. It takes those corners again and it rounds them off. So the more polygons you have, the closer to the actual object it's going to be, or the closer to the cube it's going to be. So here again, when we select the Polygon tool, we can again start to think about, you know, selecting multiple faces at the same time. The other thing is you can select, if you have the Select tools on, in the tab above, you can have multiple different types of selections. For example, the ring selection is sometimes really helpful. So if you click this, you can grab all the way around the object at once. So you've selected the perimeter of that area, right? And again, then, if you extrude something like this, if I hit the D key and extrude, you know, you can get multiple faces to come out at the same time, right? So, and then, you know, you can, of course, as it's all selected, you can also move it, so you can change the perimeter, you can change the form. So you can see that with this, with hyper Nurbs, you can get, you know, really elaborate types of curvilinear forms, and you can really control the way that you're forming the surfaces. Now, lastly, if I render this out, you can see that some of the edges are slightly angular. Okay, see here in this corner, it's sort of still angular. You can control that by adding more subdivisions in the hyper Nurbs itself. So if you click on hyper Nurbs down here in the subdivision editor, you can add more. So if I bump up to 3, even 4, you see there's a lot more polygons. It's changing the form, and then as I render this out again, you can see that those edges are totally curvilinear, right? Now you can also move down move those down as well. So if I go down to 1, it still has a bit of roundness to it, but it's much more geometrical along those edges, right? So we get that sort of formation to come out pretty well.